Hi there, Mike here. So, I see on the internet and the news, a couple of things. One, the world is having a blast coming here for the World Cup. Um, so, yes, the world will, as a collective, wish us a happy birthday no matter what happens in official Washington. They're here for it. The localities are going to celebrate American independence, regardless of what happens in Washington. In fact, in Washington, the big event in Washington is always the Palisades Parade, at least for political Washington, uh, locally. In far northwest, almost in Maryland and Virginia, where there's a bridge, a chain bridge, and there's the road to out to out to out to Fall, Great Falls, probably the most Republican areas or one of them. People come from all over the city and take part in July 4th. In and on East Capitol Street at night, the place is lit up. Um, People put stuff on their front lawns, and as soon as you hit DC on East Capitol Street on July 4th, it's a wash in fireworks as if it were day. I mean, people in Washington D.C. and around the metro area, there's fireworks all over the place, not just on the in the cap at the monument, um, and all over the country. That's how we celebrate the 4th of July. Um, just the same way, um, we do elections like that locally. Donald Trump is a rookie. Does not understand American elections from the ground level. I mean, he votes absentee. He doesn't like go to his precinct. Um, and it hasn't, doesn't like, be part of the great exercise in democracy where people actually show up and vote and meet the people who actually run the elections, who are the highest caliber of American citizen. Who, well, during the days of segregation, yeah, there were some nasty segregationists who would enforce um, black disenfranchisement, but I'm sure the people who ran the elections probably didn't like it either. In fact, the Voting Rights Act freed people who from having to behave badly because society behaved badly. I don't, while the institutional Republican Party, is out to mess with people's elections through underfunding, precincts, which is just a disgusting thing to have that is still happening, where you have these mega voting places where more than one precinct is together, um, and there's these long lines for voting. Uh, if we want to, that's one thing that has to be remedied. But other than that, the elections are, run themselves, and secretaries of state at the state level. They certify what happens at the local level, but that's a ministerial function. It's not a function where there's actually any control over it. It's just it's a sign off, not a decision making function. Trump's still a rookie, and he thinks that he can just call somebody up and say, "Hey, you're a Republican, do what I say." It's like, and he's trying to make that happen. Why? Because he knows what's going to happen, uh, and what's happening is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Oedipus Rex style, where Oedipus um, left heard the prophecy about him killing his father and marrying his mother. Well, he he heard the prophecy and he left, and on the way around in his journeys he killed his father and came back and married his mother, not knowing that she was his mother. Yeah, by actually responding to the prophecy, he made it happen. That's one of those old tragic stories that was a dramatization of how we deal with fate. That the fate we try to run from is what dominates our lives. So, yes, and how does this apply to Donald Trump? The Save America Act that he's blocking the Housing Affordability Act for is an abuse of power. His desire to stop all legislation until this is passed. This isn't like a bill that's needed. This is a bill that's designed to protect Trump from being impeached later. This is something Richard Nixon wouldn't even do. Okay, Nixon did a little political manipulation, and he understood elections, and he understood what the limits of what he could do with dirty tricks. He underestimated though how the people would react and how the members of the Senate would react, given evidence. And he thinks that because he was able to get through impeachments for minor things, really. The second impeachment was about the stuff that happened on January 6th was particularly galling, but they couldn't. And the congressional committee that eventually investigated Trump didn't stress that his call to on the ellipse to convince the people in Congress was linked to the people trying to storm violently, not the Capitol, but those particular entry points to where the members were. And God knows what would have happened if the people organizing the thing would have responded to his orders. It shows the plot. He couldn't help himself but say what the plot was when he was speaking, and the plot was on the ground. And everybody who wants to look can see it. And the insurrection, the January 6th committee in the House didn't explore that. It wasn't hanging Mike Pence that was the issue. That was the cover story. It makes good copy, but the real issue was whether there was a very real chance of attempted murder, where the mob would have found gotten rid of enough Democrats and scared enough Republicans to actually steal the election, which wouldn't have happened. The country would not have, the rule of law would not have allowed that. The other impeachment was about silly political dirty tricks, covering for, not sending missiles to, not denying missiles to Ukraine on Moscow's behest, because they thought that a few javelins would allow them to do what they later tried to do. Putin also put his foot in it by what he was doing, and he's ruined Russia in trying to protect Russia in the way Russian czars usually do, by expanding the borders to not get caught in a land war. He started a land war to protect his borders, and he's now suffering the consequences. That's what actually, the whole Trump plot was about. The phone call was about. It wasn't about. It wasn't really about the political dirty tricks. I don't know who. You have to really listen to Fox News and believe what's said to think that was a real that the Hunter Biden thing was real. I mean, if you take if the political dirty tricks they wanted was to have somebody say that Joe Biden fired a prosecutor that was going after his son as a way to help his son. That doesn't track. When going after the prosecutor, Joe Biden went after the prosecutor that wasn't going after Barisa or whatever it's called, the energy agency, Burisma. He wasn't going after their board, and Biden wanted the board gone after, the board that his son sat on. It's hardly a Father of the Year thing if you're going after the prosecutor who was shielding your own kid. That was the dirty trick. And, the people who would have fallen for that dirty trick already believed the impossibility that Biden would get Father of the Year for firing the prosecutor, protecting his son. He should have protected. He would have protected the prosecutor, not gone after him, who was protecting Burisma and the board that Hunter sat on. So it's just makes no sense to even think that's a plot. Makes no sense. Whoever was thinking this was a good idea made no sense. And the thing was, and what was impeachable was not, the perfect phone call. It's the fact that the Protect the House PAC was funded by the Kremlin political operation, the GRU's operation, to save a congressional election in 2018. Which, he's trying to do the same thing at the midterms here. The past repeats itself, trying to use illegal means to influence the election to prevent Congress from cutting its power. This is what's happening now is a redo, but they didn't investigate it because essentially what they couldn't prove the bribery, or didn't want to, so it was which is what they should have attacked, because their perfect phone call was just a very badly done dirty trick. As somebody who's been involved in politics, I know what dirty tricks look like, and that was a silly one in 2018. This one, the Save America Act, is not silly. It's tyrannical. It's an abuse of power, and it deserves impeachment. So, yes, and I'm going to share this with the transcript with the president, actually, but also with my members of Congress and the Senate, so that they can act accordingly. I think they already know that they need to do that, but they need to talk about it. That this abuse of power cannot be allowed to stand, just as it is now. If it passed, it would be unconstitutional anyway, and the Supreme Court would not let that happen. I mean, it's rotten on its face. Just like they didn't allow the election to be stolen. It's the same. It's all but one person has changed. So yeah, this law that Trump wants, it's just abuse of power. Just his action of trying to get it moved the way he is impeachable. What he's doing now, what he did yesterday, was an impeachable offense. Putting forward the Save America Act is an impeachable offense. It is an abuse of power, especially the way he's trying to force it down everybody's throat. I mean, just the content of what that has is tyranny. He's trying to do a Putin-like tyranny on this election. It's the same kind of thing that he wants 2018 to not to happen again. You know, the landslide against him to happen again, because it's going to happen again, and he's going to be impeached again, unless he resigns, which is, you know, pulls a Nixon and leaves town, or you know, or lets old age take him, or infirmity. You know, when J.D. Vance, where are you? You know, the cabinet, you know, will not be investigated if they do what's right and remove Trump from office and keep him out of office. Although impeaching him actually takes the same number of votes as continuing to keep him disabled. It's actually hard. Keeping him disabled is actually harder to do than impeaching him. But it should still be done. You know, it's dereliction of duty by J.D. Vance to let this keep happening. He's complicit in the tyranny of the Save America Act if he doesn't do the 25th. So, which is an impeachable offense. You know, if you know, not cooperating with this little plot that Trump is trying to have is an impeachable offense. So Vance needs to save his butt and actually invoke the 25th. What happened yesterday was, you know, what's happening below the surface and is now explicit cannot be allowed to stand. It in itself is a reason that Donald Trump should not be in office. Unless he says, oh, I was kidding, and signs that act. Because here's the final nail in the coffin. There's 2/3 support, probably at least in the House and maybe the Senate, for this bipartisan legislation. And if Trump vetoes if Trump allows us to pass without signature, a pocket veto, then it diffuses the situation, and he says, okay, I'm just blowing smoke. I'm saying what's, you know, I'm doing the crazy old man thing. But if he were to veto it and seriously do what he's threatening, then this is then the override vote in the Senate is a test of impeachment. If it passes if that legislation is overridden, then there is a constitutional majority enough to remove Donald Trump from office. So convict him in a trial in the Senate, not after the election, but before it. So that's what I'm going to be putting in the letter, warning the president about in a letter to him, and saying that what must happen to the gentle lady from Maryland and the gentlemen from Maryland who represent me. 2 out of 3 of which I know personally, who know my work. So hopefully this is one of those things that will actually be discussed. And for those of you who are listening, please, share this video, like and subscribe, because this is important. Thank you.